I know it's been a while, but Overlord reviews are back and I'm excited. So we're here for the second volume called The Dark Warrior. So here is the synopsis we get from Goodreads. It has been a week since Mamunga logged into his favorite RPG one last time and stranded himself there. Now he leads his guild as the Eins Uogon Overlord. Yeah, I'll talk about this in a minute. Finding himself in dire need of better information, he travels disguised as an adventurer to the walled city of what? Hold on. To the walled city of Irantal with Narberl, the battle maid, at his side. The pair accept a mission to retrieve medicinal herbs, making for a forest said to be the home of a great and wise beast, but the sinister influence of a fanatical cabal approaches. Uh, wait. Cabal approaches Irantal, and the armor-clad Ainz will face both a ruthless warrior and a legion of the undead. So yeah, the audiobook basically showed me everything I was kind of pronouncing wrong. It would have been very beneficial to have, I'll be honest, it would have probably been really beneficial to have watched the series before I read the book, because there or these books, because I feel like there are a bunch of things that kind of, when I was reading it in Braille, pronounced a couple things wrong. There were a couple of things I was just like, huh? This is how you would have pronounced them? Like, I knew what they were, I think, by instinct, but also I didn't quite, but also I don't think I quite realized how different it was being pronounced in my head until I got through it in audio. And I think that was a very interesting. I think the experience of listening to this in audio is very different from just listening to reading the book in Braille. Reading the book in Braille, the original volume, took me about 2 months to read, and it was a 246-page book. This was 256, and it took me, if anything, I think a couple of days, maybe a couple of days to read. I can't quite remember because I read it. I didn't really read this in like I didn't read it all like in all continuously. I read other books besides that. So, but I did. I think in note, I did take it. I did read it in a certain amount of time, but it was definitely a shorter thing. So the exposition that I sort of complained a little bit about is still in this second volume. There is still, I think the character development is still kind of in the middle. I think there is that psychological like look at Momonga is still there, and I think it's very interesting. And I also like the world building that we are getting, because we're getting more world building than we got in the first volume. Now that Momonga is out at, or that Ainz, I'm gonna say Ainz, is out as an adventurer. He gets to see more things, and we get to learn more things because people tell them more things. I will say, however, that I have changed my mind on the exposition now that I read the second volume and that I have watched a couple of writing videos. So a lot of, and also now that I this summer my own writing got well, when I'm recording this, it's this summer. For me, it's 2022. So if you're watching this in who knows how long. If you're watching this, the plan is to get this in maybe in 2023. So unless it comes up. So this summer, my writing was critiqued, and one of the things that critique that I got that I kind of understood because I realized I did not make this clear. And one of the things that that happens is that when I was writing the story First Meeting, which is the first volume in my Shadow Walker series that I am writing, not published yet. I hope I am by the time you're seeing this, but I doubt it. My plan is late 2023 if I can, but not for that story, for another one. But basically, I basically had a shift in certain things, and I mentioned certain things, and I did not clear it up. I did not make it very clear. I did not give some clear things regarding a character and how I talk about these characters. So I do need to, when I go back, make some things clear and actually tell more things. The thing about show and tell that I have learned through reading Overlord and The Rising of the Shield Hero and watching Shaylin Writes on YouTube is that when you are being taught to write, when creative writing is being taught, the biggest thing that they say is show don't tell, show don't tell. But I don't know if either they don't realize it or they do. But one of the things that happens is you do need to tell in a story, in my opinion. And it's my own personal thing that I've kind of learned from reading that I am using. You do need to tell in a story. There are things. The thing that I figured out is that show and tell is at the author's discretion. And while I believe that, I do think that there are certain things that do need to be shown, specific things that need to be shown. And there are other things that you can kind of get away with telling, like exposition. And one of the things that happens is that because and this is an idea that Shaylin Writes kind of mentions, and that what she says is, or what they say, because I don't know if they identify that way, but what they say is that we are told to show and we're shown how to show, but we are not often shown how to tell. We're not taught how to tell. And telling seems to be kind of not talked about a lot. I do think that although when I read originally when I read the exposition in Braille, I did feel it was a lot. I do think part of the reason it felt like a lot for me specifically is because I was reading it in Braille, and there are certain things that when I read in Braille kind of feel exhausting and they become tiring. For example, there's a book I recently DNF'd that I actually want to pick up again because I think I can appreciate it more in audio, and that is Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. I want to pick that up again because I think it's something I can appreciate in audio because the prose is really beautiful, but it's also very much purple prose, and it is hard for me to kind of stick to it because it's very long and it would take me too long to read it in Braille. So I am going to pick it up again. I did enjoy what I had read. So it's a thing that kind of comes up. I do think that although the form of exposition could bother some readers, it no longer bothers me as much if I listen to it in audio, but also the exposition is still relevant to the story and it is very much clear. It reminds me a little bit of kind of like the George R.R. Martin exposition things. The exposition, most of it anyway, at least when it comes to the world, had to do with the story, but it still took me a very long time to read because I was reading it in Braille, and it just took me forever until at some point I changed to audio and just started reading that. But it did take a very long time for me to read it. It took me like 8 months to read it. It took 8 months of my year, and I started in December 2021, and I'm pretty sure I finished in October of 2020. Wait, no. I started December 2020, and I'm pretty sure I finished October 2021. So, yeah, that is a thing. And I do think that the exposition, though it may bother readers, is very much relevant to the story, and it's told in a clear way. It doesn't feel confusing, and a lot of it is it's kind of told as inner dialogue to the by inner dialogue, usually by other point of view characters, Ain's being one of them. So that is my rant on exposition. I have changed my mind on the exposition, and I think it's fine now. I think I'm okay with the amount, and I think I'm also okay with the amount of telling. I think that's fine. I think show and tell is one of those things that is not is not taught well, and it needs to be better, and people also need to be, and I think as a writer I try to show a lot. As an author, I try to show a lot rather than tell, but I also think that there are certain things that work better when they're told, and I'm getting very comfortable with with just telling things. And I know I'm worried about writing exposition, but I think I kind of just need to write the exposition without having to worry about it. And I think that's one of those things that this book kind of taught me. Wow, this became super personal with my writing. But anyway, the story itself, however, was actually really good. I like the adventure aspect. I think the adventure was actually really cool and it was really interesting. I like things that have like an adventure aspect to it, and I think this was actually done super, super, super well. And I don't know. I think it was really, really good. And I think I think it had a lot. I don't have much complaints. Again, it didn't really feel like a 5-star story, but it still was good. I still appreciate the story and the light novel for what it was and the things that it's taught me. Also, I wonder if I also made a mistake a little bit in the first book as well, when I talked about the way that the book is separated, because this book is kind of separated. So what's weird about this is that it is separated into like a chapters and then a bunch of small chapters. So it's like, if that makes sense. So like it's like there will be like one chapter named something else, and then there'll be like 1 2 3, and it'll be like these small chapters, and then there'll be like an intermission. I don't know how to explain the way that this book is separated, but I wonder if I actually made a mistake because I was reading it in Braille when it comes to the first volume. So I think it's a lot. I don't know. I think that audio experience has given me a lot to think about, especially since when it came to my first reading of it in Braille, not to mention the way I'm reading it now. I think overall it's a good sequel. I think it has a lot. I think this arc was really good. Clementine was hilarious and maniac, and I love her. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see how she's voiced in the anime, because at least the guy in the audio, Chris Guerrero, yeah, Chris Guerrero, I think. So he at least he voices her hilariously. I found this really interesting, and I found the backstory to, I think it's Khajiit or Khajiit, Khajiit. We're gonna go with Khajiit, yeah, Khajiit. He is his backstory is actually really, really interesting, in the way that he as a villain is. They're kind of cartoon villains with very little, but honestly, I actually don't see the issue a lot with cartoon slash mustache twirling villains. They're funny to me. I don't have an issue. I still prefer villains with backstory, but cartoon slash mustache twirling villains are hilarious. But I think they're good in certain areas and they're bad in others. So, for example, if a mustache twirling villain, aka Voldemort. Voldemort is a cartoon villain. Let's be honest, he is. Has like a good plan, has like an interesting plan, and you can tell he's intelligent, and you can tell he's like, he's willing to do stuff, then he's good. But if he's like a cartoon villain that's just not willing to do much, and it's just not putting anything in, that his stuff is just like, oh, it's you're a villain, right? It's just that, like, it doesn't feel that straight, that strong. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but yeah, Clementine was interesting. I loved the action in this book, and I loved the fight between Ainz and Clementine. Now that was good. Also, it was very funny how Lizzie discovered or had an idea eventually of who Ainz was. She still made a deal with him in order to save her grandson. But I think it was really, really interesting to see like the scene where she realized everything. And also Albedo is creepy and she freaks me out. She freaks me out. What kind of scene was that? If you've read the book, it's in the intermission. You know about it. You know the scene. You know the scene. It was in Ainz's room. You know the scene. I don't want to really spoil it for you guys. I mean, okay, look, you know what? I'm gonna spoil it because it doesn't really add that much to the story. But basically, Albedo is a character who was originally she was an NPC. I can't remember what that stand for. I think it was some she was basically created by a member of the guild, and one of the things that ended up is like literally the last line is sometimes she can be a total bitch. Like that was like the last line I think that was basically said, right? And one of the things that in the last moments of I'm giving you context before I give you the scene, by the way. So in the last moments of in the last moments before Yggdrasil got deleted, Momonga, now Ainz, decided to change Albedo's profile. And he deleted the line of she can be a bitch or that she's a total bitch and she's in love with Momonga. So now Albedo is completely obsessed with him and completely in love with him. And what she does is that she kind of does everything to get his attention. She's basically very, like, when he gives her attention, she's like a child. It is very funny in ways. But what she does is, since he left, I guess Momonga, I think Momonga gave her like, Ainz gave her like a permission to be on the 9th floor and or whatever. But she is in his room and she is naked in his bed, basically rubbing her scent in his in his blankets. Now, I admit that this stuff is actually very problematic. I will admit it now. I have issues with problematic books at times, and this stuff is very problematic. This is very problematic behavior. This is very problematic behavior. I'm going to point it out that it is very problematic behavior. If I can't remember saying these words, but if you happen to really love someone, don't do this to them. This is very problematic behavior. It is very odd, and I don't think it shows the best form of you. This is very problematic behavior. I do want to say this. I found it funny because I think I see a lot of anime where things like, these random things happen in it. I feel like it is problematic. But this one specifically is a stereotype of anime where you have these characters doing these really strange things if they have a crush on someone. So I do want to say that, and I want to acknowledge the problematic aspect of it. So yeah, this was a very weird scene. It's funny though, because what's funny about the scene though is that she was doing this, and then out of nowhere she just turned like super serious when it came to the fact that like this person was leaving in order to do something, and she was like really serious. Like she was like all this obsessive behavior, and then like it in a snap, like she just went serious. So it was hilarious in that end. But it is a problematic scene, and I would like to acknowledge that, because if I review problematic books in this channel, one of the things that I want to say is that although the book is problematic, I wouldn't review them necessarily to push you away from the book, but to inform others about it. So because descriptions can be very misleading. So yeah, that is one of those things that I kind of found interesting. Honestly, I don't know what else to say about Overlord. Overlord Volume 2. It was actually a really good arc. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the adventure arc. I like the wise king of the forest. I think the wise king of the forest was like really cute. Hamosuke. Yeah, Hamosuke. I think it was kind of really cute and really adorable, and it was just It was just cute. It was cute. So, and Nabe, or Narborough really, but she went by Nabe, but we're gonna call Narborough. Narborough was just hilarious. I found her interesting. I found her complete disgust of humans just interesting. I mean, Albedo feels the same way too, so I guess, yeah. But it's interesting to see. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to read. So, those are my rambling thoughts on Overlord Volume 2, The Dark Warrior. Yeah, I will see you next week. I believe I will see you next week for videos. Um, my next review should be In the Time of the Butterflies. That's next week's review, In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez. I will talk about that with you guys next week. Until then, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Also, one thing, consider checking the description for links to other series and also to my blog, which has the same name as this channel. Consider subscribing there. I share my writing and like my written book reviews, as well as my, well, not all of them. I don't review all the books in my blog that I will review here, but I encourage you to check out the blog where you can find my writing, and yeah, you can judge it for yourself if my writing is any interesting or not. I talk about it because I enjoy my writing, so you can judge it for yourself whether my writing is interesting or not. But also, I'm hoping to share stories there too, so it'd be really fun. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Until then, consume stories. Bye!